Welcome, everyone, to the Why I Don't Like podcast. I'm your host, Christian Ashley, here to entertain you as I sit down and record episodes on the media that I consume and yet I don't like. It has been 2 weeks since I last recorded. Reasons for that being that I was kind of burnt out last week, just to be perfectly honest with you. I needed a time to rest. I think I counted. I did 9 other recordings that week. I was like, I can't do a 10th. I just don't have it in me. So that's why I'm glad I said beforehand from the very beginning, I'm just going to take a break whenever I feel like taking a break. And that worked a lot better for me on that end. Sorry you missed out on that episode, but I'm back here again for Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. Thank you, Watch, for always going off every hour on the hour, and I can't shut you off. We'll be focusing today on Season 1, Part 1, Episodes 7 to 8. And as a reminder, there are no edits done for this, so every time I inhale or every time I cough or what have you, it's going to get caught. Next to nothing I can do about it if I don't hit the mute button in time. And guess what? If I do that, there's going to be a pause. So if that's something you're not big on, go in peace. We'll move on. I have to apologize. I sound like I'm laughing over and over again, and that's because I just did a podcast for systematic geekology on on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it was taking everything in me not to corpse every single time a joke was made. And as I was doing the outro for that one, so it's coming out now. You kind of get me at my goofy moment right now. So I tried to decompress from that, and I failed completely and utterly. So regardless, we're here. We're going to get this done. And as always, I'm going to start with something that I like. Something that I like is Legend of the Galactic Heroes. So if you're looking for a really great anime, it started in the 80s and then finished off in the 90s. There's actually a remake happening as we speak in multiple different seasons. You can't go wrong with my favorite anime of all time. And the only reason it's my favorite anime of all time is that 20th Century Boys has not been adapted as an anime. This has got it all. You've got tremendously great characters, wonderful motivations for them, excellent world building, great space fights, good intrigue. Like, it is here at a perfect package, and that package is named Legend of the Galactic Heroes. But we're not here to talk about things that I like. We're here to talk about things that I don't like. And I don't like Mushoku Tensei, especially as we go through these episodes. There are things that I really want to like, and then Rudeus ruins everything. But Rudeus ruins everything is kind of like the motto of the show. The author doesn't think of it that way, but I certainly do. As we get into episode 7, What Lies Beyond Effort. And in here, we start with Rudeus watching Ghislaine and Eris sparring, with Ghislaine complimenting her, saying she could reach advanced rank soon, which makes Eris very happy, as Rudeus notes that he's nowhere near her. As the opening plays, we see Rudeus, continue to teach them, as Eris's math is still just as bad as ever. But instead of punching him when he corrects her, she goes back to studying instead. We also see Ghislaine's magic has improved as well, as Eris receives praise from Hilda for her work, but Rudeus receives a cold glare instead. Rudeus, meanwhile, throughout all of this, has started working on making his figure-making skills, which... deep sigh, deep inhale, exhale, whatever. He has made a completely anatomically correct Roxy figurine, and he calls her his goddess. Hearing a knock at the door, Rudeus finds a woman named Edna Rayroon, who introduces herself as she tells him that she needs to spend some time training Eris for her 10th birthday as a lady. Eris, for this, needs to learn to dance and show herself as a graceful lady, which Rudeus feels is very unlikely. which she kind of agrees to. I mean, we know who we're dealing with here. As part of this, Eris needs to dance. She needs to show herself a proper lady. Rudeus agrees to shorten his lessons for Eris' sake. Let us go into the opening scene here. Start off pretty dang strong in showcasing the difference between Rudeus and Eris, showing how she's better than him at something. So he's not just the greatest ever, and he's never made a mistake, and like he just gets everything like most of your modern isekai protagonists do, which Mushoku Tensei, to its credit, doesn't do, and it is better off for it, and I'm very grateful for that. As well, we kind of get into more of Rudeus as mentor, Rudeus as student too, with Ghislaine's swordsmanship training. Is that there's some things that he's just not able to grasp as easily as someone like Eris. She is better suited for this fighting thing. So like that. Now let us go to the figure making. As an otaku, as part of who he was, it was perfectly natural for Rudeus in his old life, whose name we still don't know, to have a bunch of anime figurines. And it's a very big business in Japan. I mean, it has transcended over into America for anime. But I mean, we do it for comic books and stuff like that too. So the fact that he would be thinking about this makes sense. It's something in his old life that used to bring him some comfort. I'm fine with that idea. I'm not fine with some of the things that I know would have been in his house, which we saw in earlier episodes. But he's made something tremendous in this world. It appears that no one else has thought to use earth magic in this way. And I like that. It gives Rudeus a way to showcase his magic in a way that's unique, but not in an overpowered sense, but like he spent the time to learn how to do this, to figure things out. That's really well done. But then, as is always the case with him, he ruins it by commenting that he made it anatomically correct. And what that means for those who didn't watch it is he's showcasing her panties there, which, if you recall, is his holy relic that he puts his hope and faith in, is why he calls her his goddess, amongst other reasons. Hate that. So much hate. I have very little patience for some of Rudeus's eccentricities in these two episodes, and you're going to hear more about them as we go on. But first, I want to showcase a little bit of Eris's viability as a lady, and as far as the standards of that time of where they're at, and how it's antithetical to her. And it makes perfect sense to why she hasn't been following in her lessons with Edna, because she's Eris. Eris has grown under the same house with a very boisterous grandfather who doesn't take anything from anyone, and that's been transposed upon his granddaughter, who needs to stop being such a brat. But how else was she supposed to turn out, except if not in this fashion? So it's a monster of his own design, whether he's realized it or not. Phillip is not much better. Hilda is not much better, as they kind of encourage aspects of this. So the fault ultimately is on Eris for her own actions, but let us not forget that she is a product of her environment. So I'm willing to show a little bit of, what's what I'm looking for here. I'm willing to slack off a little bit in her regards here, but we'll see how that unfolds. So what this allows, Rudeus to do is, since he gave up some time training with Eris, he now has some free time to explore the library. As Phillip kind of shows him the books, and Rudeus finds one that's written in Beast God, which is the Beastkin language. And this makes Phillip remark that if he knows it, then it can help Rudeus hire Beastkin as servants. The actual word would be slave. As they both perv out on the idea. Our main character, everyone, Rudeus, then writes a letter to Roxy, telling her that he's studying foreign languages, including beast god, battle god, and demon god. And Rudeus figures he can learn so many languages at once because his mind's still young, but he is having some difficulty figuring out demon god. He then overhears Eris, getting angry at her dance lessons. She runs away. Edna comes by and begs him to help her get Eris to care about her lessons, which of course she doesn't. She's Eris. So Rudeus goes out to find her, and before he can ask anything, Eris kicks him off the haystack. And how many times can I get a scene of Eris just beating up Rudeus? I'll take him once per episode, please. It doesn't happen, but it makes going through these not as bad. Because, Eris is in the wrong to use physical violence in this specific circumstance, but it's also Rudeus. So, I don't care as much. No, that's bad to say. He's still a child being beaten up by another child for no good reason. But we also know who Rudeus actually is. So I'm not going to shed any tears, as it were. So before he can say anything to her or ask her anything, she just kicks him off of the haystack she's hiding on. He knows that's where she's going to go and hide because Eris is a creature of habit. She then says that she wants to skip the party, as she says she doesn't need it, which Rudeus identifies with. Since he did the same thing in his old life, becoming a bit of a shut-in, it's not 100% parallel, but you can see where he gets it from. And he remarks that also she's going to regret that one day, which is good for him, showing signs of regretting the things that he did in the past. Cool with that. Ariston tells him that no, he just has it easy as he's good at everything, which he denies and points out rightly that he's having trouble learning other languages, but he'll keep studying. Ariston asks him why he would do such a thing if he's not good at it. So he tells her that starting off bad at something makes him feel great when he learns it later on. And he then promises to help her with her dance practice. And she hits him on the back of the head and goes back, asking him to join her in a very excellent scene. So good to see children beating up children. Let's pause here for a moment and focus on what happened in those scenes. Rudeus learning other languages. I've said it before. This is one of my favorite parts of his as a character, as a person, realizing, I'm in a foreign world. I don't know the language. I don't know the rules about anything. Let me learn. I love that drive for him as this foreign soul from another reality to be willing to put the work in for this. Shows initiative, shows someone who's not stupid, shows someone who's willing to do the work to get things done. And then he doesn't stop with what is a human common tongue. He goes for the other three. That is great. I love that idea. He's going to use it for Rudeus means later on. But right here and now, it is going to be a game changer because he knows how to speak these languages. Going to go into too much spoilers for those of you who are, for some reason or another, choosing to follow along with me watching these episodes as they release. But it's something that if he does not do what he does now, they're boned. And I really appreciate that from the writing side of things, choosing to bring your character to the point of realizing, this one language isn't enough. Let me study these others so that I get ahead in the world, so that I can interact with other people and learn from them. That's so good. Something else that I do find good as a point of characterization is Eris hating hoity-toity stuff. Now, part of that is me as a person. I despise dressing up. I despise doing refined things. I despise every bit of that because it's just antithetical to me. I overheat when I dress up. I like wearing t-shirts and, basketball shorts and stuff like that, just so I can live. And it's really hard to do that when you're in a suit and a tie and you're a very warm-blooded person by nature. So you overheat and it's awful. I hate that. And then of course, the different, you should only be wearing this color shirt on this kind of day, or, these colors don't match. And what do you mean? Well, because society says so. Or here's how you dance. Here's how you talk refined. Here's how you act refined. And I'm like, nope. So I am 100% behind Eris at this point in time. I'm also, shockingly enough, behind Rudeus identifying with Eris's struggle. I think he makes it a little bit too much about himself, but him showing empathy in any way, shape, or form, I'll take. And it comes from him not wanting Eris to live the life the way he did in his old world. And that is good. That is astonishing from him because it's something you wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect someone who would live that way to act like this, but Rudeus, as much as I sometimes fight against it, has shown growth. And this is a great way for him to show growth, even though he is still making it about himself, which is just Rudeus being Rudeus. He is still empathizing with Eris's struggle. And that is well done. And I really appreciate it. So let's continue on. As we see Rudeus and Eris start practicing with each other, but Eris is just too fierce for him. He then practices more with Ghislaine for his language skills. He sells the Roxy figure, earning a gold coin, which he got underpaid for, by the way, which, it's not his fault. It's the first time he ever bartered. And Rudeus then receives a letter from Roxy later on, which he sniffs for her scent, which, by the way, is a plot point that just happened in our most recent season. So happy about that. As she praises Rudeus for his many accomplishments. As we see in flashback, her burning the seventh prince for once again molesting her, as she writes. I don't know how much they're paying Roxy to be there, but it ain't worth anything at this point in time for what she's having to suffer through. Unless she's like 750 gold out to the mob or something, I think it's time you went and got yourself a better job, where this wasn't happening. Regardless, in the midst of her letter, she has said that she has prepared a textbook for him to help him learn the demon god language faster, that she wrote by hand. And she also notes that the prince recently bought a statue of her. God, I hate this. Rudeus examines the book and declares that he'll make him lick her feet in thanks as he continues to help Eris practice. That's what happens. All right. So let's start with selling the figurines. This is a genius plan. He has cornered the market on this. Genius might be the wrong word. It could have been a genius idea. It's smart. I'll say it that way. To do this, because as far as he is aware of, no one can reproduce the things he is making. So now the market will get to decide how much they're worth. So yeah, maybe he got a little screwed over, but it's also the first one he sent out. So I can cut some slack there. I think I'm more in the wrong. I should admit that. Yeah, I think I'm more in the wrong there in that regard. Because yeah, it's just starting off. So the shopkeeper doesn't know how much it's worth. So yeah. And then the way that it helps him practice his magic into making things in a correct fashion, too correct sometimes for his own good. But for him, I like this as an idea because it's going to give him, had things remain the way that he thought they were going to stay, it's going to give him the money that he needs to help finance both him and Sylphie into getting into Renoa. And this is a great way of utilizing the skills he already has to do that. Now let's go over to Roxy. Roxy continues to be better than him in every way, continues to be a better teacher, a great teacher in many respects. And that, yeah, she has recognized that Rudeus has surpassed her in many ways, but she hasn't given up on teaching him. She realizes, he's hit a plateau in this certain area. Well, I know the demon god language, So what am I going to do? She doesn't abandon her former student. She designs by hand a guide to learn the language for Rudeus's sake. And that's such a self-sacrificial love in that sense of she has nothing to gain from this, but because she is fond of him, because she loves her student, she makes it for him. And this would be a lot better if I didn't know what would happen later. But for right now, this is very sweet. We'll just put it that way. And we'll move on from there to Eris's party, where we see that nobles have come from afar to participate. Eris has been all, dolled up for the party in a very un-Eris way, but she has finally been made into a lady a little bit. We'll see where that falls apart in a second. And Rudeus is actually worried about her being refined right now, being something that's going to cause her to break at some point. Edna worries about this as well because she also knows Eris. But Saros asks for someone to take Eris's hand for the first dance. And in so doing, a noble boy about her age asks for it and they dance. But Eris, being Eris, is far too aggressive for him and they fall. And it kind of gets people around them going, oh, is this girl stupid? Yeah, she's definitely no lady. She's no real noble if this is how she's going to ask. So Rudeus, overhearing this, steps forward to dance with her, realizing because he knows her that she's nervous. And as a part of this, as they start failing a little bit to start, tells her, hey, just close your eyes and pretend that we're sparring, which produces great results and has the crowd cheer because he has managed to figure out exactly what she needs to get this to work. Rudeus later on then explains to Edna how Eris needed to think of this as a fight, as Eris praises him and he's asked to dance by other girls, as Phillip politely asks him not to stand out too much, as it's Eris' special day, but he allows it, telling him not to get them pregnant. But Eris hits him and takes him away. Yeah. The dance scene. This is spectacular. This is once again Rudeus actually showing growth, actually showing how he's going to care for another person, and he doesn't make it about himself this time. So way better than before. He recognizes who Eris is, what she is capable of, what she likes, what she doesn't like, and what she's proficient at and what she sucks at. She sucks at dancing because it's not her. She's not this refined lady with these social graces and mores. No, she's a fighter. She's a brawler. She is fierce. So how do I get her to do this thing that she's not good at? Well, I make her think about something else, which gives her the confidence to actually do the thing that she's bad at. And without him intervening, this does not happen. And it's done extremely well. It would be an immensely beautiful thing if other things didn't happen later on in this episode and the next episode. So let's go to Philip's remark real quick. The initial one, I cited a little too soon. I forgot about what I'd written. He's not wrong to say, hey, this is Eris's day. Don't stand out. Absolutely right. It is her day. Let her be the center of attention. Let her do her thing. Don't stand out too much. And also as well, there's the political machinations of Rudeus being a gray rat as well, which we'll get into more explanation for next episode, that he needs to be careful about. So he's right to say that. It's his remark about Rudeus not getting the girls who, by the way, look around his age. And he is currently 8 at this time, if I remember correctly, because his birthday is going to happen in 2 years. So yeah, he should be 8. So at their oldest, I would say maybe 12 if I'm being charitable. And that's the remark Phillip makes. Like, what is wrong with the writer, number one? What is wrong with the people of this world who are made by the writer to say things like this? What is wrong with you? How do you think, yep, man, I am nailing it today. Had a grown man tell a 8-year-old kid, don't get that girl pregnant. Boom. I'm a writer. That's what writers do. I don't like that. how can you look at that first draft or even have that in your first draft at all and say, yep, the next couple of drafts, gonna keep chugging it on because that belongs in there. I don't, it's insanity. I don't care for it. It's not my thing. So we'll just move on from there. Otherwise, I'll start repeating myself. So that night, Rudeus gifts both Eris and Ghislaine their wands because they're his students, and that's what he learned from Roxy, what you're supposed to do with your students. And Ghislaine gives Eris with a ring, which is a talisman that protects people from evil wolves, but she says it doesn't work. Rudeus that night wakes up beside a sleeping Eris and decides not to molest her. Wow. Everyone have that thought? You just wake up and like, you know what I'm going to do? Oh, well, I guess tonight is not the night that I molest someone. I don't know about you. I've never really had that thought in my entire life, like waking up, you know what I could do? Not even in like a call of the void or imp of the perverse kind of way of like having those stray thoughts that you know would never do, but it's just your brain telling, hey, you could do this, even though you and your would never engage in those things. But no, Rudeus thinks and almost does it. And then he complains that the ring works because he was the evil wolf, guys. Didn't you know? There's some symbolism there. This is really good writing. This is so good that Rudeus has done this. See, because he's not a total pervert, he's not a total bad person. He didn't molest her here. Well, later on, but for here, it's okay, guys, because the ring worked. So, unable to, keep sleeping, he walks out and finds Soros in one of their towers of the house having sex with one of the beastkin maids. Rudeus watches and then decides he's going to leave, but Soros has noticed him after he has finished with the maid and asks Rudeus to come to his side, which Rudeus does so as they both notice a floating sphere in the sky that they've never seen before. As Rudeus wishes for girls to fall from the sky. Kind of sort of happens later on. All right, let's just get through it. The molestation scene. Or what would have been had he not been stopped by the ring. Why? Why does this keep happening? It has no place here. It does not belong. Mentally, yes, I get it. He's a dude way older than Rudeus of 8 years old. You would think at some point in time, you would do a little self-reflection, maybe. I don't know about you, but if this were to happen to me, I have had the mental thoughts. I am going to be 34 this year. And I ended up reincarnating into another body. At 8 years old, yeah, I am mentally 42. That doesn't make these thoughts or actions okay, even if I stop myself. Like, there are power dynamics at play here mentally that ruin any relationship of this regard, regardless of whatever fantasy world you live in, where you marry at 12 or 14 or whatever. There are things that just shouldn't be thought of and shouldn't be done. And I can't stand that this keeps happening. It happens again in the next episode, episode 8, Turning Point 1, which, by the way, is a great name for this episode and other episodes that share its title that I was too dumb to realize until after the fact are named this way because they're turning points for the series as a whole. So that's on me for being an idiot. I like the names of these episodes because of how important they are for the series, but there's also some things I don't like here. So let's start off episode 8. Turning Point 1. Rudeus has noticed that he's grown pubic hair and talks about how he didn't like studying English in his old life, but finds these new languages really fun. Eris and Ghislaine keep training, as Rudeus notes it's been 2 years since her party, and Eris has gotten to advanced rank in Sword God style. He also looks at a strange sphere in the sky, wondering what it is. Yeah. Now let's just get the beginning parts of the opening scene and let's focus on the sphere. This is such a fun, interesting idea of hey, we've established there are floating like castle islands in the sky before, but and I forgot to mention this in the last episode of what I just discussed, but it just shows up. And Soros has noticed it, Rudeus has noticed it, but in 2 years, it seems no one's really done anything, at least on screen, to like figure out, okay, what's going on with that thing. At least the sky castles are like 400 something years old or something. This is brand new. You're telling me there's not a mage out there or a king or a noble or someone's like, I should kind of concerned about that thing. Let's do something about it. And maybe something has happened and I'm just not there yet in the story where at this point in time it's established someone did something, but I'm not seeing it. And there's also something to be said. It's like maybe someone did and they just don't have the magic to get up there, the technology to get up there. So they just kind of accept it as part of their everyday life, which, yeah, I could get behind that if it were explained, if it were said, if it were shown, versus me having to infer that on my own or just making stuff up, really, is what I'm doing. Because that would have something to say about how people just kind of accept things after a while. And just kind of accepted, certain aspects of society or certain things that are in this world that we really shouldn't. But, I think that's giving him the author too much credit. So we'll just move on from there to the next scene where later on, Rudeus overhears Eris yelling at the top of her lungs in a very Eris fashion that they need to hurry or Rudeus will notice them, which is a harbinger of her own doom. Eris has done. As Eris and a beastkin maid are moving a carriage inside the mansion, he follows them, overhearing Eris hope that he'll be surprised, as she says it must be hard on him since he comes from a branch house. And also says that it's to get it ready for his 10th birthday and wishes that he'd been born into a different family. Rudeus then leaves, noting that the Boreas gray rats can't really acknowledge him much, as he's from the Notos gray rat side of the family, and that creates political conflicts. He says that there are 4 main gray rat families, which the Notos and Boreas are 2 of them. We don't hear about the other 2 in this one. I can't remember if we learned that later on or not. The Notos head is Paul's brother, who's apparently scummier than he is, which is quite the task. But sure. So there's a covert movement to replace him. So Rudeus being under their care causes problems, and he knows that he, as a result, can't have a big party like Eris did. So let's discuss those things. I really like the possibilities we get here that don't happen because of story reasons that are also really good, of the political machinations around the gray rat family. This is well done. This is a great way of fleshing out the world and establishing why Rudeus can't do certain things, why it's actually a big risk for the Boreas side of the family to take him in as a Notos. And they're taking on a lot of heat for it in certain regards. That's great. That's a lot of fun because it introduces problems for our main character. He's going to have to navigate this at some point in time, even with the events that happened at the end of this episode. I have seen something, I don't know how it works, but this does come back later on. And I am very, very excited by this prospect because it's actually good. It's actually something that serves the plot, serves the world, serves the characters. I wish we got more of it, but as I understand it, something the author decided to shift for later on. And that's fine, because you can bring it up right here and have it affect it later on in the future, because now you brought that Chekhov's gun in. It's got to go off and fire at some point. Yeah, I have no issue with that. And in fact, that's one of the better parts of this episode outside of the end, which is one of my favorite parts of this series as a whole. But we'll get there when we get there. So continuing on, Rudeus later notices everyone being busy as Ghislaine watches over him, and she kind of notes to him he's learned 3 languages in 2 years. Quite the impressive feat. He says that studying makes him hungry, but everyone outside is not ready preparing for his birthday party, so Ghislaine stops him, which he realizes, so he decides to just play with her and shows off the figure that he made of her, but it's missing her tail, which he uses as an excuse to molest her when she shows off her butt to him by pulling down her clothes so that he can see how the tail attaches to her body. Yeah. So great. Only for a maid to come in and see them in a suggestible situation. Isn't that funny, guys? We've achieved comedy. You know what? We should have a comedy button for when someone thinks they've done something that's funny, and yet it should really be the womp 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 sound. It's so stupid. I hate this so much. And let's not dwell on it. We have to move on. They, after this, now that the party's ready, then go to his birthday party as Eris gives him flowers and tells him happy birthday as he starts to cry, which is fake, saying he was worried he wasn't welcome there. Which, in an actual funny part of the episode, causes Saros to declare war on Pylemon Notos, which will be Paul's brother, so that Rudeus can be in charge, as Phillip stops him and has him dragged out of the party, and one of the funnier running gags of this episode. And this makes Rudeus think his acting's too good, which, yeah, I would say so, buddy. You faked those tears pretty well, jerk. Little. So Eris then apologizes for her grandfather's actions and says that she has a surprise for him, which he incorrectly guesses would be that his family is coming. But Eris, a little downtrodden from that, explains that they can't because of all the monsters that have been acting up all around, some of which are doing it around his hometown. And before anyone else can say anything, Hilda bursts through and starts pressing him to her bosom, saying he's one of her children now and that she'll adopt him, but decides instead to have him marry Eris, which forces Phillip to remove her from the party, which is very well done. Rudeus, after they recover from that, asks what his surprise is, and Eris orders a servant to show him the staff she ordered for him, saying its name is Aquia Hardia. Yeah. So let's start with, your friend and mine, our boy, our main character, Rudeus, molesting Ghislaine. This is like father, like son. And which, by the way, happy Father's Day for everyone caught up with the anime. That's all I'm going to say. It's frustrating, even though I know it's going to happen. Even though I expect it's going to happen. Because why? Why do we keep having scenes like this? Once again, I am not opposed to fan service if it's done well. This is simply so that a much older, mentally aged guy can just grab a woman's butt and say it's for art. Because he just wants it. Yeah, hey, look, Ghislaine is an attractively drawn woman. Sure. Doesn't mean that you engage in something like this. You would say, hey, don't understand. If you're just doing this for the sake of art, which some people out there would be able to do, can you help me out by figuring out how your tail works? Because I'm human, you're bee skin, I don't understand. She could do it. She shouldn't be as blasé about it as she is. But this could be a good scene written with a different character. And you can even use it for fan service in that way. Because this one is reliant on the fact that Rudeus is abusing this privilege for his own sake. Why? I don't like it. I in fact, hate it. And it's not the only thing I'm going to hate in this episode, which is immensely frustrating because it ends in such a great way that I would want to give this like a high, almost even an A+. But you're going to see the actual score is much lower than that because of something else that happens. And we'll get there when we get there. One other thing for this scene, these scenes, the actual party. The humor is so much more effective here when it relies on two characters, both one of known for being very stone cold and indifferent or just spiteful, and another bombastic and having his own way, just breaking in this moment and declaring war on another family, which he knows is bad for business. But at the same time, he just can't help himself. That Rudeus' crying has made him feel this way. He's got to protect this boy who's watched over his granddaughter this whole time, protected her and taught her, and is now got to be a member of the family. And of course, Hilda as well. We're going to learn why she acts the way she does in the next scene. But for her to break and to hold him close to her and declare that he's her son and that, he should marry Eris, and Philip the whole time being like, these idiots are saying these things in public for the most part, even though it's pretty much our family, our close family, and a bunch of beastkin maids. This could leak somewhere. You idiots need to shut up. Like you feel his immense frustration here. And it's so well played. And Eris the whole time is trying to give Rudeus his gift. And there's that brief moment of, I didn't give him what he actually wanted, which would have been his family. But it's not her fault. So she does give him the staff. And it's such a great gift that only she could have provided to him with the money that her family has. And he's so grateful for it. This is such a great moment of just characterization across the board. I wish more scenes were written like this party. It's infuriating that they're not, because like it's so good, and you can hear my voice kind of breaking. It's like, because I know what happens next. And that's oh goodness gracious. Let's go there. God help me. So, after dinner, Philip explains to Rudeus that Eris has two brothers. One of them younger than her, the other older than her, but they were taken by Paul's brother when there was a succession dispute within the family. As kind of a way, this common practice would like, hey, I'm going to be a father to this kid from the other side of the family or from a different noble house, and like raise them in my house, kind of the implication being, if you act up, I mean, who knows what's going to happen to your kid? I mean, for your Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire people, this would be Theon Greyjoy inside of the Stark household. To kind of give you something you could look at in that way. You're like, look, you rebel again. Who knows what's going to happen to poor Theon? I don't think Ned would have done it, but that's the purpose of what is happening here. So no wonder they don't like Paul's brother, Philemon, and that's Philemon, not Philemon, as I keep wanting to say. So Philip explains that all male Boreas kids, all male Boreas are raised in a household with the head of the family. And this is something, naturally, that broke Hilda, and is why she didn't like Rudeus before then. And a great reveal of what has been going on in her head this whole time. And he then asks Rudeus if he would marry Eris and take over the Boreas family, saying that, yep, you know what, I'll handle the coup, and he'll also, to sweeten the deal, because he's such a great guy, he'll leave Eris in Rudeus's bed with her hands tied, because he's also a great father. Didn't your father do that to you because he loved you so much? Rudeus, to his credit, says that he'll pretend he didn't hear that and leaves. And then he ruins it, because Rudeus ruins everything, because he could have had a harem of beastkin maids. Not, hey, maybe if I do this, some good can come out of it. My family would be better off. We stop someone like Philemon from ruling the Grey Rat families. I already like Eris, so marrying her, that's a good thing, and she probably likes me back. Not any of that. No, it's because he doesn't have a free set a harem of beastkin maids. That is his motivation for why he's upset. So Rudeus then goes to his room to find Eris in her nightgown, and he pervs on her and kisses her, saying in his mind that he'll take a tsundere Lali's first time. Our hero, everyone. 10 and 12. 10 and 12. Those being the ages they both are right now. Which he also notes would be his first time. So sad, buddy. Oh, look at you. You live such a poor life. Eris tells him to stop, which he does for a moment because he remembers Philip's plans, but he just can't resist her and says he'll try a little something, which Eris agrees to. She's trembling, and he calls her cute, kisses her on the cheek, and grabs her breasts. She says no again when he tries to initiate some foreplay, and she beats him up, calling him a jerk, and leaves. I'm surprised he didn't get a photo of that, an image for the YouTube page. Sorry about that. He then berates himself for not what he did or his actions, but for being such a virgin. Now, that's what all virgins do. They just molest and grope a 10-year-old child. A 12-year-old child. That's what all virgins are like. Didn't you know that? And notes that she wanted to make his birthday special because she knew he'd be lonely without his family, which is a far better reason, if you forget everything else, to be upset here. Because Eris really did want that for him, and he's ruined everything. So Eris returns, and Rudeus apologizes in a very Rudeus way instead of an actual, I'm sorry, I actually did something wrong and I hurt you kind of way. And she tells him that they have to wait 5 years, and then he'll be an adult, and leaves. Which Rudeus celebrates until he remembers Sylphie. Uh-huh. Are you as upset with me right now? Should be upset. But before we go to that, political scheming. Philip is a great schemer. He's scum, so he's definitely family with Paul, but he's a great schemer. He knows the wrong Grey Rat is in charge of the family. How do I go about this? Well, I make a member of that family marry my family, have a coup, kill him off, and now suddenly Rudeus is in charge, which is the same member of the family, so too many people shouldn't complain. But as part of that, he promises him Eris, which that was what you did back in the day. That part where you just stay there. Yeah, in our modern sensibilities, we kind of go, nope, I don't know about that one. Which, for the most part, I would agree with. But then he just adds the extra because this writer cannot stop himself. Well, if you agree to do this, I'll leave Eris in your bed with her hands tied. His daughter, he is promising to put in this position to where she cannot escape her bonds. Presumably, she's unable to use magic in some way, shape, or form, or her own Eris strength, Eris smash, to get out of it, so that Rudeus can have his way with his daughter for his political scheming and machinations. Father of the Year, everyone. Sorry about that. Apparently, my internet decided it wanted to die, so I'm not entirely sure how this episode's going to go. There may just be a very big pause there. I don't know what the last thing you heard is, so my apologies on that end. There's really kind of next to nothing I can do, especially since I don't edit this show. So yeah, we're just going to keep moving on and hoping for the best. So I stopped with political schemes. Let's go to consent for Eris and Rudeus. I would argue she has no way to consent here. Because more than likely her dad's told her to do this. Yeah, even if she likes Rudeus, which she does. She's 12, he's 10. There's no way either should be thinking about this as what they should be doing. And Rudeus, hearing her say the word no multiple times over, continues to touch her inappropriately, to molest her, to try and initiate having sex with her. Because he's a creep and I hate him and he's worthless and he's trash. Any person, maybe this is, if he was actually 10 years old and dumb and he doesn't understand such things, I might give a little leeway to this. But he's not. This is a however the heck old NEET from Japan who is older mentally because he's in a 10-year-old's body doing this to a young girl. There is no way for him to, for her to have full consent here because she does not know who she is dealing with, because he has not revealed that to her. You could make a better argument for this scenario, removing the molestation beside, for this to have consent in it if Eris knows who he is. I don't agree with that sentiment, but I understand where someone could come to that point. Oh, and by the way, you don't really see people talking about this either. Because, oh, isn't it so funny? Rudeus had his chance and he just blew it. Because he's acting like he's just such a virgin. The hell is wrong with people? What is wrong with you that that's what you say, other than anything that says, no, this is not cool. This is not good. Whoever thought this up should probably be locked up because maybe he's done it himself. I'm not throwing around accusations, but it makes a man worry, if nothing else. And it's all a part of Rudeus being a complete and utter scumbag, just like his father. And it doesn't sound like it's too far off from Philemon either. So is that really the person you want in charge of your family? No, not at all. And I can't stand when people defend this part of his personality of, oh, it's just Rudeus. This is who he is. And you accept that? You're happy with this? You want him to see him succeed? That is nothing. I can't even form sentences right now for how angry and upset I am that people will just look past this and, oh, it's just Rudeus being Rudeus. The hell it is. He needs to be strung up and killed at this point in time. It'd be better off for the world. You don't need someone like this, the sexual deviant, that's running around and then being treated like it's okay. Like, oh, you're just, you scoundrel, you're just like your dad. That's not healthy. That's not good in any way, shape, or form. And hopefully I can get these images to back to where we were. Oh my gosh. I am, I mean, no pun intended, I am appalled at what is happening here. Oh boy. So continuing from there, we go to our favorite scumbag, father of our favorite scumbag, the scumbag father of our favorite scumbag, Paul, who is fighting some monsters, as was mentioned earlier, and hears that they're acting up all over Fatoa, and he hopes that Rudeus is okay. At their house, we see Sylphie being greeted by Zenith and Norn and Lilia and Aisha as she asks Lilia to mail a pendant she made to Rudeus. As Lilia's going to deliver the holy relic to him for his birthday. Isn't it so great? Zenith remarks that Sylphie's grown up a lot, and she scares Norn with a story about the soup herd. As Paul returns, and they all see a foreboding cloud outside. We also see Roxy, who has noticed the same cloud in a different region of the world, or maybe a different cloud. It's kind of hard to tell. As a strong man elsewhere intimidates a dragon with a look, and he notes that Mana is gathering nearby for unknown reasons. We don't know this man's name yet. We then see a purple-haired lolly demon girl in very inappropriate clothing proclaim herself to be Kishirika Kishirisu, a very compelling character, as we'll see later on. Kind of. So much in this series. And we also hear a voice from the flying castle. We later learn is, oh gosh, what is that hero's name? Oh, well, whatever. Paragus, I think. Who wonders if someone's trying to undo the seal on the plus, and he orders his servant Almanfi to investigate it and kill anyone suspicious there. Not unreasonable. Rudeus, meanwhile, goes out to test his new staff with Ghislaine and Eris as the storm gathers around them, which makes Almanfi think that they caused it as he summons the circular nimbus or whatever the heck the name was. Sorry, I forget the name. That's on me, not this series. So he fights with Ghislaine, who uses her eye normally, having lifted up her eye patch to gauge the situation, revealing that she can indeed see in that way. In the midst of this, several beams of light emit in multiple locations, engulfing them as the episode ends. In a spectacular fashion, I dare say. And if this and the party scene had been what this episode is about, I would have been so happy. Dude, there's a reason this episode is entitled Turning Point. I'm not going to explain what it is, but we'll have to wait till next time when I do 9, 10, and 11 so we can finish the first season and move, the first part of the first season, go to the second part of the episode after that. I wish I had thought of something like what's about to happen. That's how good that idea is. I am jealous, and I would admit that fully. I am jealous of this idea. I wish I could go back in time and steal it. But we'll get there when we get there. This right here introduces us to some key players who will show up later on. The guy that doesn't have a name. We get to see Roxy again. We get to see Paul and the gang again. Sylphie. And some tremendous things are about to happen in the series. If it were a better written story, I would actually like as a whole. But it's stuck being in Mushoku Tensei. And I really want to talk about them, but I know there are some people out there who are just watching these episodes, as you've told me directly, that are waiting for this episode to drop first. Then you watch them. Then you listen to this. So I'm trying not to spoil too much for you. So let's go to scores. Episode 7. I'm giving this a B-. There are some things, imagine what, couldn't possibly be Rudeus, that made this score go down. Otherwise, pretty solid episode. Enjoy it. Now we get to, I had so much time, so much of a struggle dealing with how to rate episode 8. At one point in time, I said F-. At another point in time, I was like, no, I can't justify an A because of what happens, but I'll give it a B+. And then I said, nope, I'll just split the difference. This is a C- of what should be an A+. Of what should be an A+. You had me with this idea, with this concept. This is so wild. It changes everything. But it's built around an episode where Rudeus molests 2 women and suffers no repercussions for it, and in fact is encouraged by one to eventually become her husband. God, this series is so frustrating. You have no idea how much I struggle with it, how much I want to like it. I want to like it. But it keeps throwing crap like that against the wall and saying, no, actually, this smells pretty good, don't you think? This is really attractive to look at. I'm like, no, keep it away from me. Get thee behind me, Satan, for thou speaketh not the word of God. It's so dumb. I hate it. But I also like it. For some of these reasons we're about to see in the next few episodes, I'm going to shut up because I'm just be speaking on repeat, and that's not going to help anyone. So we're done with the review. Guys, thank you for sticking with me as I ramble on and on. I have an outline, and it just seems like I don't sometimes. I just keep going off script. Sorry again for the internet cutting out. I don't know how much of that silence is going to be carried in the podcast. It's just, I don't know, just do what I do and listen at 2 times speed. You're not going to offend me. And yeah, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing the video, for liking it on YouTube. For the podcasting side of things, please leave a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. Just help with the ratings there. And like I mentioned, if you're on YouTube watching this, then please comment below, subscribe to Systematic Geekology or the Anazal Ministries podcasting pages. You can email me at whyidon'tlikepodcasts@gmail.com. That's without the apostrophe and without the ellipses. If you're interested in my own fiction writing, you can find my works at starfirewritersguild.com or on Amazon if you search the name MC Ashley. You can also find me podcasting on Systematic Geekology and Let Nothing Move You. Special thank you to, God dang it, every single time. I wish this were a bit. I wish I was smart enough to make this an actual bit. But I'm not. For the music he provides for the podcast. And with all that in mind, I spent a lot of time discussing what I don't like about Mushoku Tensei. But you know what I do like? You listeners. I like you. So see ya, Space Cowboy.